Well, hello, hello. Nice to be with you guys. I need a sound check if you can hear me. Well, let me know you can hear me. Wonderful. Thank you for Susan Taylor. Huh, Pet Barn sold you sick fish. It really is important to buy fish from a reputable distributor, either a hobbyist, a club member, um, a quality pet shop. But one should never buy fish from a big box store. They simply cannot afford the staff that are required who have the skill to know how to care for the animals. And as I have said so many times before, they depend on selling sick fish. Because when you bring the dead fish back and walk into their store, you will pick up two or three things plus what they are going to recommend you buy in order to deal with your problem. Even though it's not your problem, it's their problem. I think what people need to do when they take them back is demand payment in quadruple to cover the cost of putting a sick fish in your tank. Mon cher. Hello, hello. See if we can get you a wrench. There we go. Moonboats. Good to see you. Nice to be with you, Moonboats. Moises Page. New to my channel. Well, nice to have you here, Moises. We do a little 15-minute warm up before we officially go live at 6 o'clock. Although we're live, it's not really official. The Mossery. The Mossery also new. Also nice to have you here as well. The Mossery. Here's Rhonda. Rhonda is green because she is a bona fide paying member of the channel. Delighted to have you here, Rhonda. And thank you very much for your membership. Mighty Mike, happy with the plants. So many for a great price. We've really got it nailed. We're getting these fish out in these plants in such good condition that it's really working out very, very well. I think I've had one complaint in the last month since we've been shipping out the same day we get in. And that was for a shipment that was delayed by the post office an extra 2 days. So it really wasn't our fault. I did make the order good. I don't want anybody to go away unhappy. And so far, we're doing pretty well. Jacob Hopmeyer. I had an aquarium with no filter. Bravo, Jacob. Good job. Glossary, Mossery. Propagate mosses. Excellent. Oh, that is your actual name, and you propagate moss as well. How appropriate. I've only had a few kinds of moss. I did pick up some wild moss at a stream recently that's doing really well in my tank, although I do not have it submerged. It is wet. Do you need my supplement? Well, Rhonda, I would say so. It depends what you've got and how you're putting it together, but what the supplement does is ensure that the substrate is not going to run out of minerals before things begin really cycling. It takes several years for the cycling to fully develop. In the meantime, you need adequate nutrients in that substrate to be able to carry the plants for several years. And you don't want to do it with fertilizers. So we do a very rich supplement that will last up to 5 years. So it's really quite a helpful product. And if there's something missing in your soil and other material, then this will compensate for it as well. It also has a lot of buffers in it, which keeps the pH from dropping. It keeps the pH up above 7.0 in the 7.5, 7.6 range. Do I own cichlids? I own some cichlids. I'm starting to get more. I have some checkerboard cichlids, and I have a pair of Provensis that just spawned. I was looking at the babies yesterday. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the tank. It's very heavily planted. If I see her bring the babies out front, I'll race over there and see if we can get a look-see at them. In the meantime, it's hopeless. I've not been able to find her. I saw the babies coming out of the nest. I put a pot in. She laid them in a pot. And I saw babies swimming yesterday, which means they look pretty tiny too, but they were swimming. About 3 days old from the time they hatched. It takes 2 full days for them to come up off the bottom. So these had just begun to swim. And I took everything else out of the tank because I didn't want anything snagging the babies. So we should, I don't know how many there are. There should be 20 or 30. We'll see once they start moving around a little more. I saw the fundulus, the golden top minnows, are spawning in here. They've been spawning for a week or so. I found 2 males on the floor. I don't have a good cover here. I have screen at 2 ends, and it's not a fine mesh. It's a wide mesh. So 2 of the males have died, but I've got still 3 males in there and at least 3 females. So I'm not particularly worried about it. I think they got chased out of the tank, frankly. But they look like they're cooking. You can see the males are really focusing on the females. And I have seen them go through their dance a few times. So we should have babies in here. Probably by next week, we should begin seeing babies. I haven't seen any in here yet, except for the Formosa, the live bear. But I've been looking for, there should be baby pencil fish in here too. Have not seen them yet either. Got the supplement in Canada, says Ken. Wonderful. That's working out pretty well. We're interviewing and trying to set up a supplier in Brazil, in Australia. We have one in Malaysia who's getting it together, and of course Germany, which is the EU. So looking for someone in Israel. Brazil will be a big deal, and we do have some people in Argentina, but I don't know that it's big enough. I got a call today that just was wonderful. Anthony called me from the Cayman Islands, from the town of Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. Now I was certified as a diver in the Cayman Islands 50 years ago. It was the best place I ever do. Just utterly amazing. And Anthony invited me to come back. And boy, I really would like to do that. I may do that. It's not terribly expensive. Well, it wasn't 50 years ago. Maybe substantially more now. But it would be fun to go. And I don't know that I can handle scuba, but I can certainly snorkel. Um, and maybe get to Cayman Brac, which is a more remote island that might be a little easier to navigate. Anyway, that's kind of a fascinating idea. It was fun to talk to him. Um, he's a young man who moved his family to Cayman Island to work as doing lawn work, yard work. He's doing sprinkler systems and landscaping. Good business to be in and a great place to do it. And he said there's a fish store on Cayman Island. Can you even imagine a fish store? When I was there, it was a tiny little backward country. In fact, so much so that they didn't even have adequate facilities for visitors. And so local families opened their home. They were at the airport soliciting people to rent rooms from them. And I did that, and it was wonderful. I I was able to eat with them and had native dishes. Just a delight. Mon Cher wants to know how I keep a full head of hair, asking for a friend. Well, there it is. I don't know how full it is. It's receded a good bit, and it's rather thin on top. But I sort of do the Donald Trump thing a little bit. I fake it. I don't have quite the skill he has with hairdressing, but nevertheless. And I have not wanted to turn it yellow or gold. I kind of like the white, actually. Erie, hello, Erie. David and Noddy. Nice to see you, Mighty Mike. Substrate looks at least 6 inches. It's a good 5 inches. It's a 35-gallon. This is a 4-foot long tank. It is a 55-gallon cut basically in half. So it's essentially the same footprint as a 55-gallon, but about 8 inches shorter. So I could put a 55 there. I've kind of gotten locked into this tank. In many ways, it's not preferable, but it has forced me to keep a certain kind of fish, namely small fish, in this tank, and to load it up with plants. The planting is looking so much better. I've pulled out all the all the jungle stuff and put some better plants in. And I think it presents much better. I've also got a lot more light on it. And I got another one of these bigger lights for the center. I'm going to do that. I have a smaller one there. I just got some in, so I'll put a better light on that. Keeping an eye on this credensis to see if she shows up at the front of the tank with her babies. I think I put a lot of litter in the back, and I think she's back there with them just feeding. It's a really good spot for them. They'll be able to beef up pretty quick there. Let's see. Jacob Hubmeyer, Joey V Mystery Sales. I do, and they have bred, and I've been moving the babies around, so I've got mystery sales now in pretty much every tank. Jenny, hello Jenny, nice to see you. Jenny is our webmaster on the Father Fish Shoal, the Discord channel, and is remarkable. She does just such a wonderful job. Rhonda just bought supplement and a few more plants. We will ship the supplement out on Tuesday, so you get it by Thursday. We will not be able to ship plants until Wednesday this week because of the holiday. I have plants shipped into me from a Florida farm. It's a farm I've known and dealt with for many, many years. It's a specialty farm. It's not huge. It's run by the owners and their staff of 6 to 8 people. And they sell a concierge kind of service. They sell to select customers. But they have a wonderful variety and do very, very high quality plants. They're all grown submerged, not immersed. So we get plants that aren't going to drop their leaves the minute you put them in your tank. Gina Gamel, new member, joined last week, just ordered supplements. Those of you who ordered plants sound like you got some nice ones. I'm planning on getting the package deal now that I hear this. It really is working out well. We're very pleased. I've I fast tracked the system. The plants are collected Monday morning. They are packaged early Monday afternoon, and they are shipped late Monday afternoon. I get them Tuesday morning. I separate them, make up the packages, bag them, and ship them out by Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon at the latest. So if you get them Thursday, they were plants that were living in a pond on Monday. So that's 3 days. That's about as good as you can get. Most of the suppliers, most of the people you're going to buy plants from have had them in cold storage for up to 2 weeks, sometimes longer. I will not sell a plant that has been in cold storage more than 1 week. And I have set up vats for plants like my swords. All of the swords are in vats. So they're all in mud and growing. All of the plants that I can are in my tanks here indoors. So I am literally selling plants out of these tanks. I tried not to do that. My problem is I don't have enough tanks. I only have a half a dozen tanks, and I really need them for the plants in order to get them a good, strong uh, start so that when you get them, they will be in a growth mode. But it's working out okay, and I really don't mind doing that. I'm now ordering enough to be able to keep up with the supply. So any plants that are not shipped out in the first 2 days are planted. There's a fly around here. I'm gonna get him. Oop, there he went. He was on the screen and I thought I might catch him. 40 pounds of rock. Russell Wilson is putting. What size tank is it, Russell? 40 pounds of rock. Sounds like a lot. It's not necessarily. That could be one rock. Eerie. Bashful. Am I bashful? You think I'm being bashful? Hello, spinster sister. How in the world are you? Nice to see you. I do. I start 15 minutes early for all the early birds so we can kind of get in and say hello and chat, make sure everything's working okay. Probable cause clause YouTube. With the manure, I lost it. Or the cow compost, make farm the fish in any way while placed under the sand with the potting soil. I don't understand the question. The manure or the cow compost make, harm. It says farm. I do that all the time. I'm forever hitting the wrong letter and not correcting it because I'm not watching what I'm typing. I'm looking at the silly keyboard. It's difficult to train myself not to do that. No, it will not. Now, you do not want to use raw cow patties or raw horse or sheep or goat poo. Do not do that. You want uh, a cultured manure. You want a composted manure. You can do that. It can be a vegetable manure. It can be, compost. If you have a composter that you use for your garden, you can use composted uh, plant material. It's every bit as effective. You've got three ingredients basically. One is soil, a potting soil. The second is a compost or a mud, like a pond mud. And the third is a humic material. I use peat moss because it's available. There's some countries where it's not available. You can use coir, that's coconut husk. You can use sphagnum moss. You can use a leaf mulch, a thick composted leaf mulch. That's 50%. 50% humus, 25% soil, and 25% compost. Now you add to that 0.25%. If it's 211, a quarter of 0.25% supplement. So if it's 211, 211, like 2 cups, 1 cup, 1 cup, 1/4 cup, that would do a 10-gallon tank. 422, 1/2 will do a 20-gallon tank. We have some mathematician trying to do a chart on Discord that will chart this out for any size tank. I think it's an enormously complicated thing to try to do. I've tried to do it. Um, the key is whatever you mix up, it needs to be no more than 1 inch of soil and 2 inches, no less than 2 inches of sand. That's no more than 1 inch of soil, no less than 2 inches of sand. That's the 3 inches. And any tank below 55 gallons. From 55 and up, that can increase a 1/2 inch up to a 75 to 100, which can increase to 2 inches of soil, 4 inches of sand. Now, for 200-gallon tanks, I have done 2+ inches, maybe 2.5 inches of soil and 5 to 6 inches of sand. I had a 500-gallon tank in which I did not put soil, but I did put 8 inches of sand. And I noticed that after about a year, there was an effective soil layer in the tank that the detritus had created by sifting down, precipitating into that sand all the way to the bottom. And it created a rich kind of foundation that the plants were able to feed on. And I was able to grow Sagittarius and swords in that tank. I had big fish in it, fish 2 to 3 feet long. There were very few that were really troublesome with plants. It was mostly big fish that do not mess with plants. Things like arowana, clown knife fish, even large plecos. They did not damage the plants. Rogerio Canuto from Brazil. Nice to meet you, Rogerio. Good to have you back. Fish Fam Link says, do not forget the thumbs up. Let's see how we're doing here. Take a look at the thumbs up. We have, what do we have? We've got 100 people here already. Wow, that's impressive. 61, 62 thumbs up. Let's get a few more thumbs up there. We're 30 short. And I don't think we've been here long enough for anybody to have left yet. 65, 6. I think it's 7. We'll go back and look later. Let's see. Oh, I did want to suggest, I haven't done this for a while, but I think it's time to start bringing people up on the live stream. And I want to do this cat manure in a substrate. Here's the difficulty with that. If you have composted it, it will be fine. It'll be very high in nitrates, but that's okay. If it is not composted, it will probably destroy the substrate. It's really important to use composted material. Raw material will break down and create heat. And the heat will be substantial enough to kill all of the microbes that you're trying to culture in the tank. And that could easily foul the tank. That's another reason why we only do 1 inch and cap it with 2 inches of sand. Because for the first couple of months, that substrate is pretty hot. It's pretty active. That's where you get a lot of bubbles. Now, the bubbles are not toxic. They're hydrogen and carbon dioxide primarily. Because we have a heavy buffer in there, there's no acidic problem. There's no acid. Nothing that's going to cause a problem, but it does bubble a lot. But again, it's not a problem. Cat manure. Well, if you want to compost cat manure, I guess you could do that. It's pretty nasty stuff. I don't know. If you use a litter box, that's clay. You could put that. You could bury it. That's what I would do. Is bury it in a garden area or in um, a bedding area, and then get back to it in about 6 months, and it probably will be a pretty rich culture. I don't much like cat manure. I've dealt with, I've had cats most of my life, and I'm not all that thrilled with litter boxes. But I'm sure it would work. The key would be to make sure that it was thoroughly composted. So it's not going to be anything wrong in there. Erie first got 6 more green neons as 35. Oh, they are wonderful. I don't have any. I need to get some. They're such a nice little fish. They're much hardier than neons or cardinals. They're not as prone to disease. I believe they're still being wild caught. Now, I'm not sure about that. Someone may be breeding them by now. It's been a few years that they've been on the market, and generally, after 2 years or so, enough people have figured out how to spawn a new fish to be able to produce it in the hobby, and not have to take them out of the wild. Although there are legitimate grounds for collecting from the wild. For example, in the Amazon, at the end of the rainy season, all of the fish have been spawning for 6 months. There are vast numbers of them. Some are able to move out into the river, but the majority don't. And as those pools are cut off from the river, they're stuck. They're in a pool, and that pool gradually evaporates. Local native people capture those fish and put them on the market. Those are fish that would otherwise be dead in a few months. But we're able to collect them with no harm at all to the population and put them on the open market, and they will be able to live in people's tanks for several more years. Now, that's fairly common practice in places where there is a rainy season and a dry season. And that may be what's happening with the green neons. I don't know. Is CJ still part of the show? No. No, she's not. CJ has children with substantial medical issues, and is working a full-time job in the process, as is her husband. She found she really could not afford the time that was taken up with her hobby and with what she was doing online. So she had to give it up. More's the pity, but priorities are family first. And so she made that difficult decision, and we honor and respect her for it and hope someday to have her back. She was an absolute joy, and a delight to have on the channel. She also broke new ground. She was breeding Scarlet Batis almost before anyone else, and doing it in living natural aquariums that she developed before she even heard the term. She just put that together because it made sense. It's a real genius in the hobby. Well, I hope one day be able to return to it. She is capable of making so many absolutely amazing contributions. Tanash Tobias, hello. Oh, excuse me. Hello, hello. I need to drink a little water here, I think. Trying to get the bubble down. Ooh. Russell Wilson. Neon Tetras are cold. They absolute dear. Goodness sake. They absolutely are. I don't know. I can't swallow it. What? Like Colin. I think I got it. We'll see. Duque! What length is that tank? That tank, 48 inches, Duque. It's half of a 55. It's 8 inches shorter than a 55. Footprint's the same. Jacob is leaving us. Bye-bye, Jacob. Embers and Harlequins. Nice. I just got some Harlequins from Peplin Creek. Got 2 species in here, which they're a little small, so they're kind of hard to see. But they're doing real well. They're schooling at one end of the tank. And nobody seems to be bothering them. I thought it might be a problem with the fundulus, but they're so busy breeding, they don't have time to pay attention to anything else. I got them over here. Let's see if we can show this. Well, of course, they stop now. There's the male. There's a female. They are so skittish. It's the least, if I bump the desk, there's the male following the female. Well, now they're not doing it. Maybe I'll catch them. We'll see what's happening over there. I don't see her. Sunday fish service, you bet they do. I'm doing Sundays because I've noticed that a lot of the big YouTubers do Sundays. It seems to be one of the best things. Now, I should come on earlier. If I came on earlier, I would be able to catch the European crowd and also the Asian crowd if I were on like early in the afternoon. I haven't wanted to do that. I probably won't. So we get a few diehards from England who will hang on until they fall asleep. Fish and Outdoors with Lando. Hello, hello. Nice to have you with us. Give you a wrench. Anybody gotten the wrenches yet? Are they coming through? New house, lock and key. Can cold water plants be put in a tropical aquarium? They absolutely can. Cold water plants live in streams and ponds and lakes and rivers in the summer when it gets very warm. They have no trouble tolerating warm temperatures. Many of them die back from the cold, but if you keep them in your tank, they will not die back. They will simply continue to grow. Genetically, the only plants that insist on dying back that I'm aware of are the Eponogetans. That's the bulb plants. They are from rain pools in African jungle areas. Rainy season, wet season rain pools. So when the pool dries out, the leaves, of course, die, and that bulb retains life such that when it rains again, it's able to sprout and grow. They grow very quickly. They can grow inches a day, and some of them become quite large. I had an alvaceus years ago that I grew out in oak leaves. It was a thick, dense bed of oak leaves in a 55-gallon tank. That one bulb completely filled the 55-gallon tank. I've never had one grow to that extent since then. But I think the leaves were a big part of it because that would be very similar to its natural environment. Stu. Nice to have you with us, Stu. Need to give you a wrench. Somebody asked me a question earlier before we went live, and I thought it was a really good one that I wanted to talk about. The question was, if I collect sand from a creek or stream, do I need to put dirt in the tank? And the answer is no. If you're collecting deep enough to be in essentially the substrate layer, the soil or the dirt layer, which is very rich, you can collect that, put it in your tank, and then cap it with an inch of top dressing sand from the same place. And the plants will thrive in that. Now, that is exactly the same formula for saltwater tanks, to collect sand deep in open water. And by deep, I mean 6 to 8 to 10 inches deep. Get down deep enough so that you're below the level of washed sand and are in the level of sand with nutrients in it. Use that as the foundation, 2 to 4 inches foundation of your saltwater tank or freshwater, and then add another inch or two of sand on top of it to just kind of hold it all in place. And that works brilliantly. Now, that's very much a divergent system from what we have been putting together. I have not promoted it because it's a difficult one to achieve. Difficult in the sense of not being able to access the right kind of material to be able to do it. But if you have a good stream or creek near you where you can dig down 8 to 10 to 12 inches and get a rich sand. You can use that. You may add to it. You can use it as simply 25% of your substrate, but you can also use it by itself and simply cap it with about an inch of sand, and that'll work. Leto, Idaho. Give Leto a wrench here. Apparently I already did. It says remove. Didn't remember that I did. Gary? Yeah, I guess I did. Let me back up a little bit. Oh, Gary's saying to Mikey Mike, where are you located? You can catch green news. I think he's buying it, assuming that they are wild caught. Wendy Beck. Hello, Wendy. Nice to see you. Jim Fiore, Fatherfish, thank you. Since finding you over a year ago, all 8 of our tanks are now planted with a deep bed. We haven't done a water change in well over a year. Haven't lost a single fish. God bless. Yeah, I gotta talk about these discus a little bit. Let me show you this. See if I can get this where I'm not gonna unplug it. What am I tangled on? Yeah. Oh dear. I have an electric drill down here. It's laying on the wire. There we go. I think I've got it. Okay, I want to talk about the discus. Oh dear. While we're coming over here, let's look and see if we can spot the female crebensis. She's hiding in the back with her babies. I saw her yesterday, early in the evening. She was right at the entrance to the pot. The babies were just starting to emerge. They were just swimming out for the first time. But I've not seen her all day. Oh, no, that was me. I saw the male back there. Well, she'll come out eventually. Okay, these guys. These are my Stendecker discus. I've got 4 of them. They look fine. The water is turning yellow. And I'm reaching the point where I'm thinking I probably should do a 10% water change. Now, I've got a lot of babies in here. These are blue line tetras, blue line killies. I've got a pistogrammus that have spawned. So there are about 20 babies in here. They're kind of tiny and hard to spot, but I saw them schooling a couple of times. The discus look fine. They look healthy. They're eating well. I think what's happening is I'm getting apprehensive because of all of the hype about water changes with discus. I certainly don't want them to begin to go down or to get sick or any such thing. That one is not as nicely contoured as these. I didn't notice that before. Notice his his face is not rounded like this one is. He's got a kind of a receding chin, if you will. See the difference? Can you see that? Makes him not quite as desirable as a breeder. As I said, they look fine. I think it probably will do about a 10%. There's one of the baby Festos right there. They're almost half an inch. They're doing pretty well. There's another one darting around. So let's take a look while we're here. These are the checkerboard cichlids. I have 3 males and 2 females. Why I bought 5 is beyond me. Um, it's okay. If we get one spawn, I'll be delighted. They're not quite big enough yet. And here's the salt tank, and it's looking really good. It's kind of got some algae in it, but then that was inevitable because I don't have much in the way of other kinds of plants. But these pupfish, my word, isn't it gorgeous? These are females with the stripes and males with the blue. That's the dominant male, and that's a smaller recessive male. There's another one. They dart around here all the time. There should be babies in here. They should have spawned by now. I haven't seen any yet, but doesn't mean they're not in here. They likely are. I bought a boat. Gee, we can almost look at it. Let's take a look at the boat. The turtle tank is, well, there's the turtle. I'm going to have to rework it. Somebody made the complaint that I had too many rocks in there. They were absolutely right. I do have way too many rocks in there. Now, the turtles are not being damaged. The rocks are all flat and sitting on top of each other, so they're not moving around, but it makes it impossible to keep the algae off the glass. So, oh, look at my boat. Here, I can open the window. Yeah, please give me that. I got the top on it right now. I don't know what the length is. It's about 15 foot, I think. Got a nice motor. You'll get a look at it inside. We're going to start working on it this week. I got to take everything out of the van, all of my camping gear and collecting gear, and put it in the boat. What we're looking through is our pack out station. This is where we pack out all of our plants. So I don't quite know what we're going to do this winter. And that's a stray cat that I feed. And he's coming around the sun. So, all right. Let's see if we can get back here without messing things up. Did we look at everything? Yeah, I think we looked at everything. All right. Gee. Did that without incident. That's amazing. I'm about to step on it. There. Where's that fly? Yeah, right. Jim Fiore, thank you since finding you over a year ago. We did that. Thank you, Jim. Did I give you a wrench? I think I did. No, I did not. Do that maintenant. Leto, Idaho, who I think has a wrench. Yeah, but then Amir Mohammed Nazad. Amir Mohammed Nazad. And as moderator, didn't give you a wrench. Very good. Heart to you as well. Dastrone. Some knuckles. It's currently my favorite hang on the back. I don't have a favorite hang on the back. Actually, I don't have any working. I have all sponge filters. I just basically don't do hang on the back. What is going on here? There we go. Moderator. This fly has been pestering me all afternoon. Leto said he thought I just croaked. What are you talking about? Stew. New house lock and key. I think I gave you a wrench. I did. YouTube is being slow passing them out. Either that or I'm way far back. 6:24. I'm 15 minutes behind Kenny D. Hey Kenny, nice to see you. Blessings to you. Wonderful to be here with you. Arlene Cam, Timothy Chambers. Oh, that was pretty impressive, Timothy. Gotta admit. Torador really made me fall in love with the aquarium hobby. Thank you. I now talk to everyone about deep substrate. Well, good for you, Torador. Let's see. Howard Van Tassel. Hello, Howard. Happy to see you. It uses black lasting set. I do too. I like it. Now, I have found that there are different grades of it. There's a coarse and a not so coarse. But I bought a bag of it not long ago when I was setting up the tank at Super Cichlids. And I put it in, and it was powder. I mean, it was about the grain of talcum powder. Freaked me out totally. So I capped it with a coarser sand that they had in the shop, and the tank's doing wonderfully well. We had some crebensis which had spawned in it. I think I recommended last time I was up there that they put some smaller discus in it. They did. They are going to set aside a large tank, which would be a 200 to 300 gallon tank. They're trying to decide which one that we will do as a dirted deep substrate, and it'll have large fish in it, probably primarily discus, since that's the main thing they're focused on these days. So when I get back there, I'm going to be talking with them about it at the Keystone Clash in a couple of weeks. Any of you who can make it to the Clash, it'll be fun to be able to see you there. I will have a booth that I'm going to be sharing with some friends. So I'll have some substrate on sale, and I'm planning to take some very large mother swords to sell. These will be 2 to 3 feet tall plants, very big plants. So we'll see if it works out to be able to do that. Edmonds Rose Robertson. Hello from Scotland. Nice to have you here. Bikes and carts. Welcome, Bikes and Carts. Anyway, I was talking earlier about setting up a format for the Sunday evening streams where for half an hour we can interview 1 or 2 people who have something unusual and interesting going on either in or with their fish tank or fish room. We haven't done that in a long time, and it's always a good thing to do. It's always nice to be able to share this time and space with some other people who have a story to tell. So be in touch with me on the Discord server on Fatherfish Shoal if that is something you would like to participate in. If you feel like you have a tank or a fish room or something happening in the hobby that you're especially proud of, and I know many of you do, I would be happy to feature that. What we'll do is in the second half hour, we will devote the second half hour to new people. So plan to join us, please. Rick B from India. Nice to have you with us, Rick. That one guy, 2.5 gallon small catappa leaves. How many should I put in? Very tiny. You should put a variety of leaves in. Catappa leaves, there's a problem with catappa leaves. And it's the same problem as with oak leaves and any of the other thick, uh, thick, hard leaves. And that is that they deteriorate very slowly. So they really don't provide very much in the way of nutrients in the tank. They really are not a primary food source for microfauna. They are a good thing to have because they serve as a backup when everything else is gone for the microfauna to still have something to munch down on. But you want to do aspen leaves, maple leaves, fruit tree leaves. Those all break down much more quickly, but you want to have a mix. So the catappa is not a no-no, not at all, but it needs to be one of many. Now we're very close to being able to get this leaf module published. I think in a short time we ought to have it. We've got, I don't know, we're almost half done, but we're at the final stage where we're just putting the final pieces together. So at some point in time, this is going to come out and it's going to tell quite a story about the importance of leaves and the kinds of leaves in your tank and the way to introduce them in your tank and what to expect. So that's coming along. In the meantime, we just do the best we can with what we got. Let's see. Can you split Amazon swords? You can. I don't like to do it. What I prefer to do is to leave the plant in the soil long enough for it to begin to grow babies, for it to begin to have attachments to it. Then you can take that out and you can separate the attachments so you'll have whole plants. It takes 6 months to a year for a sword to be able to do that, but it is amazing. I've taken some out that I've had in a deep substrate tank for 6 months to a year, and there may be half a dozen new plants growing right up against that root base, and they're very easy then to remove. Newhouse Lock and Key would love to show up his basement pond, and we would love to see it. Get over to on Discount Newhouse and look me up. I'm there all the time, And we'll be happy to set this up. That'll be great fun. We can do that next week. Brian is saying Catawba breaks down very fast in your tanks. How fast would you say, Brian? How long does it take the Catawba leaves to break down? Now, Erie makes an interesting point. Newhouse is saying, where can I find the list of leaves we can use? We're not ready to publish it. It's very close, but we're going to do it. Erie talks about not using live leaves. In other words, you don't want to pick leaves off of a tree and dry them because they will contain all of the sugars and all of the photosynthetic properties that are in a living leaf. And that will foul your tank. The leaves that fall off of trees, all of the nutrients, all of the sugars are drawn back out of the leaves back into the tree. And the leaves are left dead and they fall. And they are perfect. That's the ones you want. We're coming into the fall here in North America. We're going to have a bounty of leaves. And I'm looking forward this year to collecting leaves by species. So I'll be looking for certain kinds of trees. I already have a maple and an ash targeted. I'm going to get all the leaves from those two. And they're big old trees, so we'll be able to do quite well. One of the problems that I've had collecting leaves is the pine needles. Now, these are dried pine needles. There's nothing in them that causes a problem. But they don't break down very quickly, and they're not particularly beautiful in that aquarium. So I'm sorry those of you who have had a lot of pine needles in your leaf culture or your leaf mix as I've sent it. It's the best I could do, but I'm anticipating this coming year I'm going to be able to do a lot better and be able to avoid that. Also, another leaf I want to avoid is the holly leaf, mainly because I have wounds all over my hands from jamming the leaves into a bag. The hollies have sharp, pointy swords on them, and they prick your finger. They hurt. I don't have any of the holly trees around that don't have those. So, Dennis Engel, thank you for your $5 super chat, who says, trick the multiplying scud. I just found a magnolia tree at work and it drops the ponds too. Not as good as Catawba's though, but free. Yeah, magnolia, that's another very dense, thick, hard leaf that takes a longer period of time to break down. So it's a good one to use, but you want to use it in conjunction with other leaves that break down in a matter of days or a week or so. That one guy needs a wrench. By the way, if you're coming back a second time and you got a wrench the first time and you don't have it this time, it is because you are not signed up as a subscriber on my channel. So you want to go right down here to the bottom somewhere where it says subscribe, and that's what you want to do. You want to subscribe to the channel so that you'll be able to keep your wrench. Bikes and carts have a ball python. Had it 17 to 19 years, last 8 years in a bioactive setup with an aquarium setup for a weather source. Wow, that's exciting. A water source. Very nice. Jim Fiore. We got sand with scuds, black worms, and a couple of clams to use in a new tank. There are about 10 worms and a few dozen scuds. How long should I let them breed before adding the fish? What you should do is set up, I got one right here to show you, set up a shoebox and breed them in a shoebox. You can put some leaves in there, some water, nutrient, whatever, and spawn them in there, breed them in there so you'll have many of them. Then you can feed the tank from there. Unless you have a very deep food web, very deep leaf bed, they are not going to escape predation. What you want to do is get them going first so you can use them as a feed source. And then eventually, as you get the food web built deep enough, and by deep, I mean at least an inch or more, in at least half of the tank, that will provide a place for them to be able to hide so that they will be able to escape predation and their babies will be able to grow out. Crips hate disturbance. Yes, they do. They don't like to be moved around a lot. Terry Skiles. Getting a brown algae on my plants. Not seeing much green algae for my Parluella. What do I need to do? First thing to do is not worry about it. It's not really a serious problem. You can add more plants. You can cut down on feeding. You can do small 10% water changes to reduce nitrates. Doing water changes does not solve the problem. The problem is excess nutrients that are creating excess nitrates. There are basically two ways to solve that. One is to reduce the amount of nutrients that you're putting in the tank. That means slow down on feeding. And number two is to add more plants because the plants will absorb nitrates before the algae. They're actually more effective at it than algae is. So there's that. I haven't got rid of that bubble yet. Corys won't eat scuds. Bettas and Elisoma go crazy over it, as do virtually any other fish. Really true. I would just set up a natural aquarium for monster fish. There are a couple of tricks to do. I did do a video about it. It keeps coming up, so I probably need to do another video on it. First of all, you want the substrate to be deeper than normal. Big fish are going to be kept in big tanks. I would not keep a big fish in anything less than a 55-gallon. And by a big fish, I mean the larger Central American cichlids, Malawi cichlids, which get 5 to 6 inches. Anything that grows more than 2 or 3, 4 inches, I would not put in a tank less than 55-gallon. Now, you saw the discus here. They're right now going on 4 inches. What I will do, however, is once they pair off, then I will remove the other two from that pair, and that's a 29-gallon. Discus are bred in 29-gallon tanks commercially, routinely. It's the preferred size tank, although they are also bred in 20 gallons by professional breeders. So that would be the game plan. But for any other fish that's going to get big, a 55-gallon, and you want to put a denser leaf plant in the tank, you also want to put small fish. If it's going to be Oscars, get 2-inch Oscars. Little ones, get 3 or 4, maybe 5 2-inch Oscars. Maybe 3, not bigger than 4. And put them in a heavily planted tank with a lot of swords, crypts, anubias, any more dense kinds of leaves, dense kinds of plants, thick kinds of plants. Vallisneria, Sagittarius, jungle val, any of those kinds of plants that are thicker and are not going to be treated as food. That works pretty well, just doing that. If you find they're digging, they will only dig if they cannot find a flat rock to clean a nest on. If you've got some flat rocks in the bottom of the tank, they won't dig because they won't be looking for a rock. They will have one immediately available. Occasionally, they will dig a shallow pit for their babies. That's why you need the sand bed to be 3 to 4 inches deep. They may go down an inch, they may go down 2 inches. The only time they'll go deeper is if it's an old fish that's been raised in an isolated, sterile environment, and they become tank crazed. They become tank insane and are not able to function normally. They function as an angry, violent animal. So you don't want to buy big fish and put them in. You don't want to buy big fish. Number one, don't buy big fish. Buy small fish and grow them out. There's a lot more joy and satisfaction in doing that, being able to raise the fish in a way that's healthier and safer and gives the fish a better opportunity to have a normal aquatic life. Jim Fiore, so we went around 1 inch of leaves for the scuds. We have 3 inches of palm dirt, heavily planted, good bit of wood in the tank. It's a 40-gallon. We'll have 1 to 3 fish. You can try it, but so long as you've got a way for the scuds to be able to get under. The driftwood is perfect because scuds love to get underneath pieces of wood or even rocks. So that'll work really well. Dennis Engel, how difficult is it to take apart an old Pemco tank to replace the glass? I don't have the patience for it. I've done it in very large tanks. But I'm not really good at sealing them. They always tend to want to leak. I did a 200. I did a 300. Put a new bottom in both of them. And they leaked. I never got it sealed properly. In smaller tanks, I'm used to being able to buy used tanks for a few dollars. So it's frankly not worth the time and trouble to me to do it. If you're in an area that has a pretty good sized hobby, look in the whatever local shopping publication there is, and you'll find tanks listed. Keep an eye alongside the road. Talk to your local fish store. People are trying to pawn tanks off on them all the time, and they typically won't take them. Now, I used to take them. I sold more used tanks than I did new tanks, and made more money at it. Yeah, Cam's saying talked to somebody recently who said Father Fish doesn't do cichlids. Yeah, that's a foolish notion. I do cichlids. I think the next cichlid I'm going to get, frankly, other than rams, I've got to get some rams, is angels. I want to get some angels. So I was looking at a website yesterday that features stunningly beautiful tanks. And they had some videos of tanks with magnificent angels. And it just took me back to my first angel experience and how I absolutely fell in love with them. I've had a lot of angels since then, but kind of lost that sense of the majesty of an angel. I want to recapture that, and these 29s will be perfect to do that. So I probably will get some angels from Chuck in Venice, or I'll probably get them shipped from Bioaquatics, from Andres. He has red angels, which are really stunning, and I think I might get a few of those. I'll get little ones, 1 to 2 inch, and grow them out. So yeah, I do cichlids. I love cichlids. I don't have the space right now for big cichlids, but when I do, I will. They're magnificent fish, and I absolutely thoroughly enjoy them. I especially like the Central American cichlids. They're magnificent fish, just astounding fish. And there are a lot of other big fish I like too. A whole lot I like, especially like Abba and Arapima. We have Dennis as a new member. Welcome, Dennis. Thank you. Howard is saying I want to find another 90-gallon tank, but I've not had any luck. Just keep looking. It'll be out there. I was able to talk to a local shop. Honestly, I had people trying to give me brand new 100-gallon tanks, more than once, 3, 4 times over the years. I had big, beautiful tanks donated. I had at one point a set, a special made set of 250-gallon cubes that were donated. Magnificent. I sold them. I should have kept them. I'd never been able to keep them. They were wonderful tanks. I've had a lot of big tanks. People get big tanks and then realize they can't maintain them, and so they get rid of them. There are plenty of them around. Just put a note in some kind of a local paper. Talk to local fish stores. Put some stickers up in the supermarket. Be proactive, and it'll come. You'll be amazed. Be a tank rescuer. Riddicky is saying local PetSmart has a clearance sale twice a month. You can get some good deals on tanks at some of the big box stores when they reach a point where it's been sitting around too long and they just want to get it off the floor. And you can barter with them for that kind of tank. Yeah, one of the tanks I was looking at, Dennis, was Ultims. Ultims are finally being bred, and I would really like to try them. I have a friend who did a group of Ultims. They did not work out well for him, so I'm a little leery to try it. I think I want to do some of the other, like the red angels. They're pretty spectacular, and I really like the albino golden veil angels. They are amazing fish. Let's see if I can get some of those. Some not nano native U.S. fish that I've kept or would like to keep. I've kept a lot of them. I think my favorite is the pike, whether it's a chain pickerel or the northern pike or one of the other pikes. They're just an amazing big fish. Colorful, aggressive, powerful, really a stunning, stunning fish. Terry Scouse, 3 months using under gravel, the old way, plus over the back filter, fish at 5 glow, 5 neon, 1 ballot, 6 zebra on a Farlowella gravel, drift and live plants. You can do it, absolutely. My very best friend in the hobby was one of the leading aquarists in the zoological industry in the United States. He was the chief aquaculturalist for Shed Aquarium. Before that, he was at Lincoln Park Zoo. He traveled all over the world collecting for the Shed Aquarium, and on one trip, he went to Spain and was collecting off the coast of Spain and found anemones in stunning, stunning colors, reds and greens and blues, just amazingly beautiful fish. But while he was there, he visited the local public aquarium, and they had developed a system that was a modified deep substrate that they had been using very successfully in their essentially open water systems. They were taking water out of the Mediterranean, filtering it and pumping it through their tanks, and it would go through these substrates, being replenished periodically. It was not a 100% open system. There are a few, that's not one of them. He liked the idea so much that he brought it back to Shed Aquarium and installed it in Shed Aquarium. The Boston Aquarium, as it was opening, adopted that same system, and then the Baltimore Aquarium, the National Aquarium, in kind did the same thing. Merle Cohen and I did our level best to oppose that because we knew there was a better way. But the industry, the professional aquaculture industry was so dead set on using that specific system that they really wouldn't hear of it. It took 20 more years to get them to try a deep substrate system, and now it's too late to convert their major systems, but they are doing some of the smaller ones. Anyway, my friend John was his name. He swore by deep substrate to his dying day, and he kept a lot of salt water in under gravel systems. He would have 2 to 3 inches of gravel sitting on top of a plate, a regular under gravel plate with the tubes and everything. He had some of those were 5 and 6 years old. I remember years and years ago, back in the late 60s, I had a friend, Jeff Campbell, who was, I've mentioned him a few times. He was a teacher at the Putney School in Putney, Vermont. And he kept fish in his classroom, not just fish. He had about 25 large tanks in his classroom. He was the first person I knew to breed Uaru, and they just stole my heart. That was amazing. I spent a lot of time visiting him. He used undergravel filters, and I got there one day. He was breaking the tank down, and the plants, of course, had grown into the filter. He did not try to pull the plants out of it. He simply cleaned the tank out, put it back, put the undergravel back in with the plant still attached, and recapped it. Um, the plants would struggle then for a period of time before nutrients built up sufficient. But he fed pretty heavily, and he fed all live food. He had um, primarily cichlids, and he fed primarily earthworms. That was his major food, was earthworms. I don't know that he ever fed any manufactured food. I know he fed earthworms by the pound. But he did a funny thing. I thought it was funny. I thought it was odd. And in retrospect, it was very odd. He would cut the worm and then take his knife and squeeze the dirt out of it before he fed it. Now, that was before there was any understanding about the importance of dirt, of soil, in an aquarium environment. So just goes to show you one of the most, well, those are two of the most advanced hobbyists and professional aquarists anywhere in the world were using what was the most popular and the newest substrate system that was on the market. Now, Merle Cohen brought the deep substrate to the United States from Malaysia in 1965. That's pretty early. It did not really, he installed it in all of his saltwater systems. He brought it in as a saltwater system. He installed it in all of his saltwater systems in his shop. And then when he went commercial, he no longer had substrate in those holding tanks. So he kind of lost that, but he trained Garf in Idaho to develop a deep substrate system for their coral breeding farm. And they did that for years. In fact, they perfected the Miracle Mud product based on substantially increasing the availability of bacteria in the substrate system. It has been a slow, rough road to hoe, and the industry has not helped at all. Not at all. In fact, the latest effort on the part of the industry for the last 5 years or so is to manufacture synthetic soil. Now, that's fine as far as it goes. The difficulty is two things. Number one, they're not capping this material, so it is bleeding into the water column. Number two, the amount of nutrient that are in that soil lasts at most 6 months, maybe a month or two longer. By a year, it's dead, and the soil, the material itself, begins to deteriorate and turn to mud. So in time, it's worthless. What I have recommended for people who have that substrate is to immediately cap it with sand. By doing so, it will produce a soil layer that will be totally effective. It wasn't until the late 90s with the publication of Diana Wolsted's book, Ecology of the Planted Aquarium, that there began to be any real understanding of the importance of soil in the substrate. There were two problems with this that have yet to be overcome, even in her recent revision and republication of her book. The one was the lack of persistent nutrients. The other was the what's the word I want to use? The solubility of the soil, allowing nutrients to bleed into the water column, to dissolve, in fact, in the water column, and cause the water then to become increasingly hard or increasingly full of organic material, which creates, among other things, algae blooms. I spent nearly 15 years working on that specific problem. And I found two solutions that the planted aquarium people absolutely categorically refuse to acknowledge. One is to add nutrients in the form of a nutrient-rich supplement to the soil before establishing the tank. The other is to cap the soil with sand. They cap with gravel. Gravel does not prevent nutrients from getting into the water column. Sand does. At 2 inches, it simply does. So it'll be another 5 to 10 years before the powers that be come around to recognizing that there are solutions to the problems that they're creating, and they really do not need to break their tank down every year because it's become inert. It's lost its ability to provide nutrients. So that's that story. Petco's running 50% off on all tanks. That can be a good deal. I was looking at a 40-gallon in Petco the other day. They wanted, I can't remember how much it was. I was astounded at the price. It was like $140 or something. I would not pay half of that. I would not pay $70 for a 40-gallon tank. I would pay $40, but I wouldn't buy it new either. I don't buy new tanks. Not because I have anything against new tanks other than the price. I simply have come to realize that there is such a wealth of used tanks out there that are in excellent condition. They can be had for a very reasonable price. So when I reach the point where I need tanks, I won't have any trouble getting whatever size I need. I'll get in touch with a few of the shops in the area, check the local shopping publications, online and otherwise. I'll be able to get tanks very quickly. I have friends who did that in Florida. I mean, I did it all the time at the shop. But I had a friend who put together a fish room of 25 large tanks. Smallest was a 75. Biggest was a 200. A dozen tanks. He put that together by buying them online and in the paper in about 6 months. Just was no effort at all to do it. And paid 25 to 50 cents a gallon for it. Plus got a lot of equipment in the process. So I hate to take advantage of people who have failed in the hobby. My first comment, whenever I encounter someone who is selling a tank that's a good deal, is to say to them, do you want me to teach you how to make it work so that you will enjoy it? By and large, they say no. They are so burned out that they just don't want to deal with it anymore. And that's really sad. But the fault for that lies directly at the feet of the industry. Because the industry does not promote healthy aquariums. It simply does not. It promotes medications, it promotes chemicals, it promotes the continuous and persistent sale of materials, supplies, and equipment that are wholly unnecessary. And that probably represents 50% or more of the products that are on the shelf. I would include in that food. There are one or two foods that I will use. No more. There's a food I get from Japan that is only available commercially for commercial fish farmers that I sell in 1 cup portions for $10. It is the superior food. Does not foul the tank. The fish will eat it greedily. I feed a pinch every day to all my fish. A pinch. There is another food that can be purchased from Brine Shrimp Direct. It is called Golden Pearls. It is an extremely high quality, pure shrimp food that comes in a variety of sizes, down to 5 microns and as large as a pellet, bigger than a BB. Those are the only two foods that I think can be safely fed to tropical fish. And they're perfect food. So, and they're easily available. Like I said, I sell the Japanese food. You can buy it by the cup for $10, pretty cheap. Or you can buy directly from Brine Shrimp Direct and be able to get not only golden pearls in any size you want, but also be able to get decapsulated hatching brine shrimp and non-hatching brine shrimp, both of which are excellent food for big fish. So there's the food thing. Best lighting for natural aquariums. I'm using these LEDs. Let me show you one. I've been buying these lately. Oh, these are LED floodlights. These are 100-watt, I think. 120 degrees lighting. I believe they're 100-watt. I'm not seeing it. I don't remember how much these were, about 25 bucks. They have a plug on them. I've got them on my saltwater tank. These have colors. They have a little control device so you can change the color on them, which makes them kind of fun. They also flash. They do not have a timer. You can put a timer on them to be able to change them. And if you're real smart, you can rewire it. So it'll change the time and leave the blue on at night. Anyway, a good deal. Plenty of light. They claim 120-inch rings. Now, if you're putting them on top of the tank, that's not very wide. That's going to go out just inches past the size of the light. So you may need two of them. I've got two on this tank. I've got another that's a 50. I'm going to switch that out for one of these. Put 100 on it, so I'll be able to get this level of brightness all the way across. I won't have this dark space. I'll be able to have it fully covered. But really, just go on Amazon and see what's there. It's an amazing variety of LEDs, and the LEDs have been perfected. There, you can get any intensity, and they're relatively inexpensive. My tanks live on tuna, no deaths, full of life. Well, the best food for fish is fish. Absolutely right. I would feed raw tuna rather than canned tuna. However, the raw tuna is going to have organic material in it that will be even more beneficial to the fish. So buy some tuna, freeze it. It'll be already frozen. Then shave it. Shave it with a knife and feed the shavings. Good small single fish. Betta. A betta is a good small single fish. Probably the best. Some of the gouramis, the larger gouramis, large gouramis don't do well with other fish. Also, there are things like the severum, the festivum. Severum is wonderful. It's a larger fish, not a small fish. The festivums get 4 to 6 inches, so they're not really small. The best single small fish is always going to be about pacu. Pacu is a good fish to eat. I have eaten pacu. Pacu become enormous. I saw a pacu once in a pond that was 40 pounds, and it was almost 3 feet long and about 6 inches wide. A monster fish. And I'm sure they can get bigger. That fish like that never stop growing. They get as big as there is food and time to grow. A 200-year-old pacu, which is not unheard of, could be 5 to 6 feet long and weigh hundreds of pounds. Pacu is not a good fish to keep in the aquarium. It simply is not. They get too big too fast. They're voracious. They will eat anything in the tank, plants and fish included. I once lost about a 20-inch pacu that tried to swallow a 6-inch Malawi cichlid, and it got stuck in its throat and it suffocated and died. I shipped 2 big ones that size once. Shipped them UPS to Maine. The one got there, shipped in 2 separate boxes. One got there live, it was fine. The other got there, the box had been literally crushed, and the fish crushed with it, so he didn't survive. But they ship pretty well too, actually. What should I do about fungus from my driftwood stopping growth on the wood and latching onto my plants? Would blackout days help? I've been removing it manually daily. First of all, fungus is not going to grow on living organic material. It will only grow on dead material. So you needn't do anything. It is probably one of the most important biological creatures, one of the most important, what's the word I want to use? It's not an animal. It's not a plant. One of the most important items are breaking down waste. It breaks down fungus and bacteria. Fungus, as much as bacteria, break down waste. If you have fungus growing in your tank, it's growing on dead material. Fungus does not grow on live material. Now, if you're finding it growing on plants that were alive, that means the plants are dying before the fungus attacks it. Bacteria will attack, but it typically won't attack plants. It typically will attack fish and other materials of that type. I suppose it could attack plants. I'm not aware of that. But if there is fungus that's taking off, it's because there's an underlying bacteria that's killing things, and the fungus is then feeding off that dead material. So dig a little deeper into what's going on in your tank before you start pulling that fungus out. You may be defeating yourself by doing it because you're stopping the decomposition that is being beneficially created by the fungus. Fungus is never a problem in an aquarium. Bacteria can be, fungus never is. Oh, is there a limit of weight an aquarium can hold as substrate? Typically, large tanks, the bottom glass is tempered, and that makes it substantially stronger. I mean, I'm sure there is a weight maximum beyond which it will break. But if you have a sand layer a couple of inches deep on top of that glass and then fill the tank with rocks, it will not break. You're filling it with water, which is about 50% the weight of a rock. By adding rocks to it, you're displacing a certain amount of the water, so you're only increasing another 50% per rock weight. I think it would be impossible to actually put enough material in a tank unless it were something extremely heavy. I don't know, like a ton of lead or something. That would break it. Anything that would crush half to 3/4 inch, well, 3/8 inch, I guess it is. 3/8 to 1/4 inch, 3/8 to half inch tempered glass is pretty sturdy stuff. Now, do not put rock directly on glass. It will etch it, it will scratch, it will create pressure points, and it will break it. By putting a couple of inches of sand down first, you diffuse the weight of the rock. So you're not creating pressure points, you're not scratching it, you're not doing anything to reduce the tensile strength or the local strength, the individual spots of the glass. Yeah, if you have fungus growing, it's because you have dead material. And it may be growing on algae that's died. If it's on the side of the glass, That may well be the case. It may well be that you had algae growth on there, the algae has died, and the fungus is taking off. It could also be a bacterial slime that, for whatever reason, has died, and the fungus is breaking it down. Fungus breaks down waste. Fungus is probably the most vital thing you can have in your tank. It does not kill anything. It does not kill anything. It breaks down waste. When there is fungus on a fish, the fungus is not causing the problem. Bacteria is causing the problem. That fish has a bacterial infection that is killing the flesh, and the fungus is feeding on the dead flesh. You can peel it off. It comes right off, and the infection remains. It doesn't solve the problem. Haku broke the side of a tank. I can believe that. I can believe that. The sides of the tanks are not tempered. And these fish are big enough and they get crazy enough to whack the side of the tank. And they can whack it hard enough to break it. No question. Never had it happen. But I think I was just lucky, frankly. Fungus will produce beneficials the plants need. That's absolutely right. I include fungus in my supplement. People have been complaining there's fungus growing in the bag. That's a benefit. That's not a problem. That's deliberate. I put myocorrhizia in the supplement in order to be able to grow fungus, in order to have a rich fungal community growing in the tank, because that's what's needed to break down the waste. Egg crate under the rocks. Yeah, that works. That certainly works. Level and flat and keeping sharp objects off the glass. Absolutely right, Eric. Go so hard on it. Do you think all tanks are thicker on the bottom? If they, well, not little tanks, but bigger tanks, if it's not thicker, it's tempered, which means it's stronger. Typically, it is a thicker glass. My phone died earlier. Is it possible for roots of stem plants to not find their way down the soil? Will they thrive in the sand if they can't go deeper? Well, you're talking about plants like Cuba, baby tears, other plants that have very short roots. The solution for that is the food web. By getting an enriched food web going in the tank, you're getting nutrients in the top layer where those kinds of plants will be able to thrive. It is the solution that we've been looking for years to growing carpeting plants in a deep substrate sand-capped tank. The food web is the key, and it provides the solution, and it's enormously effective. Erie First is growing Monte Carlo, and sand was told he couldn't. That sand is old enough to have nutrients in it. So yeah, absolutely. In 6 months, any deep substrate sand cap tank will be able to grow carpeting plants because it will have enough nutrients in it to support it. Go so hard on it. I thought I gave you a wrench. I did. GPS Junior 10. My 125 is half-inch tempered on the sides too. Wow. If the glass has a green tint as you look into the edge, it's likely tempered. That's a good tank. That's a high quality tank. The tempered glass is another process that simply costs more to do. It's not an expensive process. I had a glass company as a landlord, and they got tempered glass for me a number of times, and I didn't pay all that much for it. It was maybe another 25% over the cost of the glass. But of course, their markup would be different. Have you ever kept and bred freshwater gudgeon or smaller species of gourami? Can't seem to get them to breed. Um, Part of the problem with the gudgeons is that many of them are brackish fish. You need very hard water to be able to get them to spawn, and more importantly, to get the eggs to hatch. The gouramis, particularly gouramis like the chocolate gourami, the licorice gouramis, they require very, very soft acid water, kind of the exact opposite. pH down to 5. Now, they are being bred in captivity in substantial numbers now, which means that they're going to be being bred in harder and harder water. I would assume now you can procure those fish and be able to breed them in 6 to 6.5 pH and not have any trouble doing it. Anybody want a paco? Paco are a great pond fish, and they'll survive pretty good. I don't know if it's deep water. They're subtropical, so I don't know that they can handle water down into the 40s. They can certainly handle it into the 50s. They probably have enough fat reserves. If they can get to the bottom of a deep pond, say a 5 to 6 foot pond, they should be able to make it through a typical North American winter that does not freeze to the bottom, but maintains a temperature in the 60s, a ground degree temperature. It's heat treatment, that's right. Tempered glass is heat treated. Swords in pots with soil in them with a sand cap, it won't grow. That's interesting. Well, I've never had trouble growing swords, but I don't try to grow them in pots. It may be that they're simply root bound in it, and they burned up all the nutrients pretty quickly. I would imagine that could easily happen. You might try repotting them, or if you can get them in a soil-based tank, put them in that. Probably they simply have used up the nutrients, which might not have been adequately rich to begin with. Root tabs are not a solution to getting plants to grow. No fertilizer is. In point of fact, fertilizers stymie, they short circuit the growth pattern of the plant. So for example, a plant that is growing roots needs a certain kind of nutrient. If it's growing stems, needs a different nutrient. Leaves, a different one. Flowers, another one. It releases hormones that trigger bacteria to create those nutrients out of the available material. By putting fertilizer in there, you short circuit that process, and the plant cannot then get its hormones out, it gets stuck in a cycle of consuming that single nutrient. And it may grow real tall, but it won't grow full. It won't be as rich a plant as it otherwise would be if it were growing normally. So my recommendation is to never use any kind of fertilizer. All of it short circuits the plant's ability to grow naturally. Enrich the substrate with natural minerals and natural products like blood meal, bone meal, material that's going to actually benefit humic material that'll actually break down and create the kind of nutrients that the plant really needs, and not simply nitrogen or phosphate or an excess of one thing that burns the plant up. Anna Shelley 811, dear Father Fish, I'm from Malaysia. I don't have supplement or additive to substrate. May I mix the substrate with eggshells? Absolutely yes. You certainly may. And there are other things you can use too. Let's just try to think of a few. You can put baking soda in that substrate, not a lot, but enough to be able to keep it from becoming acidic, to buffer it up. You can put rotted vegetation, compost material in that soil. That will add a richness to it. Anything that is available in a garden supply store other than fertilizers that adds minerals or adds organic material to the soil is something you can use. That's my source for the substrate, is garden supply stores. Now, I get everything from Amazon because it's delivered and I get it in big quantities. But it's all available at Lowe's, Home Depot, any garden supply store has the very things you need to be able to create a supplement. You need iron, find something with iron. Blood meal has iron. You can even put nails in there. It'll take a while, but it'll work. Iron oxide is typically available. There are iron supplements for fruit trees in garden supply stores. Absolutely perfect. I'm not thinking of a whole lot right now. My brain's not focused on the supplement. We have 11 different items. Go to the Discord channel, the Fatherfish Shoal. Everything is listed there, and you can get some serious help finding alternatives to each of those items. While I'm on the subject, we now have a supplier of Fatherfish products in Canada who is shipping all over Canada. We have somebody we're getting started in Malaysia, in Australia, and in Brazil, and we will by this fall have someone in the EU. We're looking for India. That's the next big one. We need to get someone who will put the substrate together in India and be able to sell it. Now, we promote these local businesses. We do not earn any money at all from them. It's 100% their business, which we will promote through our website and through our shop. So anyone in any of these countries, as we get them online, who want to be able to get some of the basic products, we'll be able to get them shipped locally within their country. Very excited about that. What do we do as plant tank enthusiasts for the substrate after 5 years or so? This tank is 22 years old. It has never had the substrate replenished. I have added sand to it a couple of times, and then more recently, because it was getting up to about here, I removed 2 inches of sand, then put another half-inch cap on top of it. It is more productive now than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I now have much more sophisticated plants in here than I have ever had, and they are thriving. What you do with your tank when it's 5 years old is sit back and enjoy it, because the substrate has now cycled. You're now in a full cycle in which all of the elements, all of the organics are going through a full cycle in the system and replenishing everything as it does so. The little bit that is lost can be made up for by simply feeding the fish, adding more leaves. That bolsters and builds up the nutrient base for the tank. Do nothing. You're in much better shape than you think you are. Yeah, Ricky is mentioning something interesting here. Talking to ITS Robbie. He's in Australia, set up a tank last night. We have an opportunity in our server, in our Discord server, for people to have their own personal channel that will be available, that is available to everyone else in the server. Currently, there are, I'd have to look, probably 500 people online in that server right now talking about everything imaginable. We have 30 different topical channels. There are people in every one of those channels 24 hours a day. It has become enormously active and increasingly effective. We're training people to be able to provide the right kind of help, to teach people how to do deep substrate systems. That training program is remarkably effective. We now have, I think, 50 trained people who are able to help newcomers coming in to be able to get the right kind of start and the right kind of information. It is a wonderful, wonderful resource, and I highly recommend you check it out. Stargazer's Mom, setting up my first tank with your plants and supplement tonight. Bravo, Stargazer. Yeah, get on the channel, the server, and set up your own channel. Nima Arifi, KS Preeper, who's a Canadian supplier. It's available on Discord. We are getting a website up. The website will be fatherfish.fish. Fatherfish.fish will be our website, and we will have all of those links at the website. It'll be probably this coming week, we'll be able to have that up. I'm going to give you the link to the Canadian supplier. Let me pull it out here on the fish store. Go to, here it is. Incredible. Hello, hello. Kasich is the one in Canada. That's right. Here's his email link, so you can reach him through his email. He has a Shopify store and is selling more and more products. So he'll be a really good person to link up with if you're in Canada. And didn't post it. There it is. Sorry. All right, boys and girls. Jerry Hammond, planted tank with 3N substrate. No ammonia, no nitrate, no nitrate. 10 inches of fish. pH is rising at 8.2. Is that a problem? Not necessarily. I would add a lot of plants. Get the plants really cranking in there. The fact that you have no nitrates, or nitrates rather, don't know what that means. It could be that there are already a lot of plants in there. Not sure why that is. pH rising. 8.2. Well, it's a lot of buffers. You got a lot of buffers. Do a food web. That'll get it down. That'll bring tannins in. It'll bring decaying vegetation in. That'll begin cutting into those buffers. Get a food web going in the tank. That'll balance it out better. All right, we are at 8:01. My friends, it has been a wonderful and much too fast 2 hours. Delighted to be with you. Hope we can get a couple of shorts out of this. I think we can. I think there were 2 or 3 that would work well. We did one on big fish, so I want to do that. Wonderful to be with you. Love you all. I'll see you at the Keystone Clash if you can make it. Be in Pennsylvania the weekend of the 24th. I'm going to be there with bells on. It'll be great fun. Looking forward to it. Bye for now. Love you all.